Well, this week, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced big changes coming to the United States Department of Agriculture. It involves a reduction in headcount, probably through attrition and through early retirement, revamping the entire structure by moving many employees, 4,600 employees that work in Washington, D.C. Only about 2,000 will remain. Some will be reduced and some will be forced to move to 5 regional hubs: Indianapolis, Kansas City, Raleigh, Fort Collins, Colorado, and Salt Lake City. The critics, of course, didn't waste any time to come out and predict doom and gloom. We're all going to starve, the forests are going to burn down, and America will die. This is not going to happen. Those people that are criticizing are generally doing so out of political opposition or because they are in an organization that is profiting from the current USDA situation. Let me tell you why this is actually a good thing for the United States, for you, the taxpayer, and for you if you are involved in the business of agriculture, as am I. USDA does perform some vital functions: crop insurance programs, farmer safety net programs, obviously nutrition programs, where about 80% of the USDA budget each year, about 80% of that goes for things like food stamps, SNAP, school lunch programs. In other words, nutrition programs for the 40 or so million Americans that depend on them. These things are not going to change. If you look at a federal agency that has grown in 163 years of existence, it has grown to become a bureaucracy. And if you don't think that any federal agency could stand to cut some fat and become a little bit more efficient, come on, it means you're not paying attention or you're profiting from things the way they currently are. This article right here does, in fact, talk about some of those that are critical of this. I'm going to tell you again why it's generally a good thing. The United States Department of Agriculture signed into law under Abraham Lincoln, and his final address before his assassination, he actually referred to the Department of Agriculture as the People's Department, founded to basically ensure a safe, affordable, and abundant food supply for a rapidly expanding country. You could say that 163 years, we've done that. We've also gotten to where there's more bureaucracy. 100,000 employees in the USDA, of which about 4,600 exist in Washington, D.C. The talk about cutting that down to 2,000, reducing the headcount, and putting people out here in the rest of the world where we do grow things is a good thing. How many crops are grown in Washington, D.C.? How many forests are there in Washington, D.C.? How many animals producing milk, meat, and eggs are in Washington, D.C.? So that's ultimately a good thing. You know, there have been USDA regional offices for the history of the USDA. There's an office right here in Huntington, Indiana. This is not going to be a bad thing. And I'll ask you another question. Any company, maybe your farm, it's been around in 163 years. Have you changed how you do things? Yes, of course you have, because if you do not, you become obsolete, and all of a sudden you are not serving the people you set out to serve. So this is ultimately going to be a good thing, getting rid of headcount, also closing down buildings that have been barely occupied in Washington, D.C., and bring the services closer to people. I have heard the criticism that it's going to be harder to supervise and oversee this. It's the year 2025. Many of us work from home. Many of us work remotely. And you know what? Through technology, we can have tremendous amount of gains of productivity, whether we're all showing up in the same building and going to the same cubicle or not. I'm Damian Mason. I address issues that impact the business of agriculture, the world's most important industry. And I'm here to tell you that updating U.S. Department of Agriculture is a good thing. Stay tuned, there will be some hiccups, but ultimately I predict this being a positive and a net benefit to you as a taxpayer, as well as a person working in the industry or just someone who eats.